Now we'll make this snail figure again. This time we'll use trimming and artistic media to make it. Duplicate the snail. Select nodes of the spiral and delete them. Click twice here to add a new node. Select these two bottom nodes and change them to cusp nodes. We'll treat this figure as a base for the snail figure. Switch to Artistic Media tool. Now, draw a spiral here. Change the brush preset and make the stroke width bigger. Switch to wireframe view. Switch to Shape tool and select this path. Now we can correct and form this path by dragging the nodes or direction line handles. Delete this node. Add one here. Delete another one. Work on it until you decide that it looks good. Let's say that my spiral's ready. Switch to white cursor and select both figures. Since the straight figure is on top of it, you should trim the bottom snail figure base. But the trim icon isn't active. As you remember, we can't use these options with dynamic grouped objects. Select the straight figure, go to Arrange menu and click on Break Artistic Media Group Apart. Now the stroke and the path are separate. Select and delete the path. Select both objects and click on Trim icon. Move the spiral figure to the side to see the effect. So we can create this snail in two ways, but as we've said many times before, this wasn't about making the snail. We're learning about Artistic Media tool, how the Artistic Media tool works and how to break a stroke created with this tool. Press Shift and F4 to switch to normal view. Let's talk about yet another way in which we can create this figure. Of course, our aim is not to make this figure. Our aim is to learn about Corel tools through practice. Duplicate the snail, delete the nodes forming a spiral. Select the two bottom nodes and convert them to cusp nodes. Your base figure should now look like this. Switch to normal view and change the colour of this figure to grey. We'll now use the eraser tool to make the spiral cut in our filled figure. Make sure that your figure is filled with colour, otherwise the eraser tool won't work. So where's the eraser tool? Let's look for it. As you can see, the eraser tool is part of the crop tool group. Select the eraser tool. Before we'll erase anything, let's make the eraser brush width bigger. Activate the Reduce Node option by clicking on this icon right here. Let's zoom in a little. Set the eraser brush to 0.08 inches. Now, create a spiral shape on our base figure by erasing its contents. Once the spiral is ready, release the mouse button. As you can see, the newly created path has hundreds of nodes. Press Ctrl Z. Now we'll try to do it again. Make the shape much faster. As you can see, there are still too many nodes. Press Ctrl Z and let's look at the eraser tool options. Deactivate the Reduce Node option. Now, try to make the spiral again. Release the mouse button once the spiral is ready. There are still too many nodes. When we click here on this little circle, we can change the shape of our eraser. There are two modes, square and circle. Activate the Reduce Nodes option again and erase the spiral path in the base figure. The answer to a problem is just not to worry about the amount of nodes. Of course, it would be too difficult to edit all these nodes one by one. Select all nodes of this figure. On the property bar there's a mysterious option called Reduce Nodes. Let's click on this little icon here and change Reduce Nodes value by dragging this little scroll bar. Let's set it to 21. Now it looks much better. The amount of nodes is smaller and it's easier to edit them. So we can also make this with the Eraser tool. Delete these nodes, add some here. So it's possible to create a snail like this. It's not the fastest or easiest way to do it. Nevertheless, we need to know how the Eraser tool works. Although this approach is time-consuming, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. The important thing to remember is that the Eraser tool works differently in older versions of CorelDraw. There might be some slight differences between this version and older versions of CorelDraw. So again, it's time-consuming, but it is possible. We're now editing this figure by creating and deleting nodes. So, in the end, it'll all comes down to the manual work with nodes and paths. So this is how we can make the snail figure with the Eraser tool. We'll use the Eraser tool later on in the course for different actions. It will then become clear for us that the eraser is a very practical and useful tool. Let's move on with our project. Switch to Text tool. Now we'll import text into our document. There are two ways to do this. Let's talk about the first one. Switch to white cursor, go to File menu and click on Import. Here we can just choose the text file which we want to import. We can import text files in many various formats: text, doc, RTF. Click twice on the text_15 file. As you can see, a window with many import options popped up. One thing we should remember is that the Force CMYK black option should always be active when we're importing text. But we don't talk about this option in detail. Just leave it at default. Here we can choose whether we want to keep or drop the text formatting. In our case, text formatting isn't that important for us. Choose the Discard Fonts and Formatting option and click OK. Click once to import the text into our document. Let's now talk about the second way to import the text into the document. Switch to Text tool and draw a text frame. When we import the text by Import option and there's too much text to fit it in one page, Corel will automatically create new pages. With this technique, that won't happen. Again, switch to Text tool and draw a text frame. Go to File menu and click on Import. Select the text, click on it twice and click OK in the appearing window. Leave all options at default. As you can see, the text was placed in the text frame we've just created. Now we can modify the size of this box by dragging the transformation handles. When we change the size of the text frame, the text will automatically be fitted to the new box. There are also two extra handles, one at the top and one at the bottom. The bottom handle has a little black triangle on it. Let's drag it down. As you can see, we're just making more space for our text. When the triangle disappears, it means that there's no more text to show. So, when there's a triangle on this handle, it means that not all of the text is shown in the text frame. Let's now try to continue the text from this text frame in another figure. Click once on the bottom handle. Now, draw another text frame. As you can see, both text frames are now connected. When we scale one box, the contents of the other will change. The program automatically fits and distributes the text between the two boxes. So now a text is shown in two boxes connected with each other. Let's now try to delete one of these boxes. The text wasn't deleted, we've just deleted a place where it was shown. To delete the text itself, we have to switch to Text tool. Select the text and delete it. It's the same as in Word. So now we know how to delete or continue the text in other objects. Let's try it again. Click once on the bottom handle. Now the cursor is loaded with text and we can choose the object which we want to continue the text. When we move the cursor over a figure, it will change into a large arrow. By clicking on an empty space, we can just draw a text frame. Delete this box and click on the bottom handle again. Now let's continue the text in a figure. When we click on the figure, the program will automatically create a text frame shaped like the object and link it with the original text frame. So the text frame was created and the text is now continued in it. But what if we now want to scale this text frame? Let's try it. Upscale the new text box. As you can see, the text frame and the figure were scaled together. This means that the text frame is connected with the figure. Let's learn how to separate these two objects. Select the text frame, go to Arrange menu and click on Break Paragraph Text inside a path apart. Click on Aside to deselect all objects. The figure and the text frame are now separated. Now we can scale the text frame without changing the size of the figures. So that's how we can create a text frame out of a figure. Let's now talk about printing. The text frame, or the dotted line indicated the size of the text frame, won't be printed. Go to Text menu and choose Access the Paragraph Text Frame submenu. As you can see, there's an option in this submenu responsible for showing the text frames. Let's deactivate this option. Well, something's wrong. Maybe we haven't clicked on this option. Normally they shouldn't be visible now. Nevertheless, these dotted lines won't be printed. Again, the text frames won't be shown in print. We would have to create an object shaped like this text frame if we want to print it. Select the bottom text frame and delete it. Select the text frame and click once on the bottom handle. Draw a new rectangular text frame. As you can see, both these paths are rectangles. We can change that with the envelope tool. Duplicate the Egypt text and switch to envelope tool. We can now deform the object by dragging its nodes. As you can see, there are also many options on the property bar. Let's now try to use the envelope tool on the text frame. Select the text frame, switch to envelope tool and move the nodes. As you can see, we can edit the shape of the text frame and not the text inside the frame. So when we want to modify the shape of the text frame, we can use the envelope tool. It's also worth to look at the property bar. It contains many useful options which we can use to edit the shape of the selected object. We can also add a node to this text frame. We do it by clicking twice on a path. It's the same as when we edit a normal figure. You should observe the text position when we edit the text frames like that. Go back to normal rectangle text frame. We just select this icon right here. Let's talk about one more thing. Sometimes we can insert a text into the figure by accident and we can't work with the figure anymore. Select this path. Well, you can use many different names for it: object, path, figure. Use the one that you like best. Select this object. Switch to Text tool. Now move your cursor over the figure's path. When there's a little wave next to the cursor, it means that we can create a text on the path. Click once and start writing. Delete this text. Switch to Text tool and place the cursor under the figure's path. When there's an AB icon next to the cursor, it means that we can click and a text frame will appear. It's a very common mistake. Sometimes we just want to create a text frame and we click on the figure by mistake. Click once to create a text frame shaped like our figure. This text frame is also connected with the figure. We can now insert some text into the frame. Let's select this text and copy it. Now, paste this into our new frame. We can also separate the text frame and the figure, but we won't do that now. Select this object and change its colour. As you can see, only the colour of the figure changed. Let's try to change the colour of the text. Click inside the text frame and try to change the colour. As you can see, both the text and the figure were selected. To select only the text, we need to hold Ctrl and click inside the text frame. When we click on the edge of the object, we select only the figure. When only the figure is selected, the break option isn't active. It's like with objects created with the artistic media tools. Let's now select both objects by drawing a selection box over them. Now, break option is active and we can separate the text frame from the figure. So it's important to remember that we can convert the figure into a text frame. Sometimes we use the text tool, click on a figure by accident, and have many problems later when we want to edit the figure. So, remember about these options when you're working with the text tool.